Welcome to Dead Headspace. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and all other major platforms. I'm your host, Patrick R. McDonough, joined by my co-host, Brendan LaFaro.
Hey, everybody.
And today's guest, Henrik Nilsson.
Hi, everybody.
Now, Henrik, you are the first sculptor. Is that the probably the best title that we can refer to you?
I'd say sculptor, crafting dude, making monsters. That's it's cool
Okay.
for me.
I wanted to make sure I had that right. You're the first sculptor we've had on the show. And this relates big time. All I've seen you create, which is awesome every time, is horror-based products, art, what have you. So I got to ask, what got you into horror?
Oh, I don't know. That came very early on, I think. We don't have that tradition of horror movies in Sweden as you guys have over there. And but I think it was my dad who was a mean mother when it came to telling ghost stories and stuff like that. And my mom was putting Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft books, and then in my early teens, I started to discover VHS with all the video and horror movies that way, and started collecting. But back then, we had a very strict censorship in Sweden, so we had this underground movement with copying movies and stuff like that. And so it was a cool time. Though you hated it at the time, but that was pretty much the way into it. And a couple of things, like I got Tom Savini's Grand Illusions, that book he wrote, one of the first ones. I got that one, I think it was in 83 or 84. And that one was a major game changer for me, because that was so much cool stuff with all the behind the scenes and creating horror, not just the horror, but what was happening behind it. That I think was so cool. Absolutely, some of those.
That's very cool. Tom Savini actually, when I first started really liking horror film, it was films that got me, not books. Well, I don't know if Goosebumps was big over there, but for a kid that grew up in the '90s, that's what my first interest for horror and books was. But it was Tom Savini that made me fall in love with horror.
I agree with that. Yeah.
There was a time when I was like, I want to do what he does, but it just never clicked with me. Unlike me, it clicked with you big time. Is he your biggest influence, would you say?
Nah, I don't know, because Tom Savini is mostly known for the splatter effects. He's not that much. I know he rather creates monsters than blood. I heard in same interviews, and I think that's pretty cool, because I say my biggest influences would be Dick Smith, H.R. Giger, guys like Salvador Dali, to artists, Stan Winston, of course, many of those horror guys, and Rick Baker is a huge influence on me, and I follow him vividly and watch whatever he does, and I like it very much. Though he has retired now, he's still very active, I think. And of course, my biggest one is Rob Bottin, I think, for the effects for The Thing. Man, it doesn't matter how many times I watch that movie, it blows me away each time, and no one has topped it ever again. And that is such a lively art going on there. Crazy stuff. Also, Screaming Mad George, to mention a few of those effects guys that influenced me.
Sure. Rick Baker's like the grand master when it comes to practical effects.
Oh my God, yeah.
Star Wars, An American Werewolf in London, The Howling. There is such a long list. Gremlins 2 was a big favorite of mine.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah, absolutely. And all those. And Dick Smith, of course. I think I mentioned him, but Dick Smith, because he's like the godfather of it all. Of course, there are people way back, if you go longer back, but what he did was so much for the guys starting up in the 80s, I think. And from what I'm understanding, he was also a very generous guy who shared his stuff and helped people out. And he seemed like a real righteous guy, I think. And did some of my favorite, like a ghost story, Exorcist, Little Big Man, and he was a genius. Absolutely.
They're classics. Brennan, why don't you take over so I stop hogging the air?
No worries, man. So I actually have some follow-ups on the art stuff, but real quick before we get too far away from it, when you were talking about movies coming over to Sweden, you said that, with the censorship, sometimes you had to kind of pirate the VHSs. The movies that came over, did they, let's say the movies that would be, censored, would a censored version come to Sweden, or would it just not come at all?
Some were banned. You couldn't see them. And some were cut to hell, like Evil Dead. They cut out 14 minutes out of that movie, and that's not a long movie. And you couldn't understand it. I've said that before to people. It felt like an art movie because people just disappeared. And then where did he go? What happened there? It was, I think there was a running time of 1 hour and 10 minutes or something like that, and it was crazy. And this lasted up until Martin Scorsese's Casino. That was the last movie they cut in this country with a vice scene with the guy getting his eye popped out. And Scorsese first decided he didn't want to release it to cut in Sweden. So he was thinking of not having it shown in Sweden, but he changed his mind and he put a special written apology in front of the movie for the Swedish audience that he thought this was crap and this shouldn't be happening in a democracy and blah, blah, blah. And that was pretty much the last nail in the coffin. And censorship was pretty much abandoned. Of course, also with the internet coming and with DVDs, and you can import movies without any problems, and it died a well-deserved death. But at the same time, it made you really you got creative. You wanted these movies. You made new friends. You started fanzines. We even had an underground movie club that we had in a local movie theater once a week. We let people in and they paid the tickets and we locked the doors, and then we showed trauma movies and all other scary movies all night, and even had a bootleg bar in the back. But that was really cool. All of that disappeared when you can just download any movie off the internet. That scene died right on the spot. That was a bit of a shame because you got creative. You did stuff and you met even crazier people. So I can miss those times a little because it was very much a do-it-yourself attitude, sort of la resistance. We're fighting against those fucking censorship dudes, Yeah.
I'd have to check in with Patrick, but I think that's definitely up there with one of my favorite answers as far as what got you into horror. The country you live in wouldn't give you like an unabridged view of it, so you took the punk rock route and you did it yourself.
I gotta say that's my
absolutely, yeah.
We've had 20. You're a 21st guest. That's my favorite answer so far. That's so.
Thank you very much.
You can make a cool story based off of that. Give it a punk rock or heavy metal soundtrack, and I'd watch the shit out of that.
Well, it was really funny times, and I was from the punk scene, originally from the 80s, and that was the same thing there. Like we didn't have much. There was no Hot Topic around here to buy any cool T-shirts. So what the hell? Get some colors on the white T-shirts. We'll make our own T-shirts. That kind of creative attitude. So fuck this. We'll make it ourselves. You can do whatever you want. We're doing this. If there are no good shows, we do a good show. If there aren't any good cool clubs, cool. We start a cool club. If we can't watch any uncut movies, screw it. We start a little secret club in the corner here. And we show the movies we have, and we were breaking records at that movie club. We were pulling in more guests than the regular cinema was doing during the week. They were like this artsy little independent place that had like 4 or 5 guests a night, and we packed the place with freaks and had such fun time. So it was good. It was really good. So I can miss those days, but of course, it was fun. It was fun.
Now, there's one band, and I had to double check on Google, that is a punk rock band. I didn't know they were from Sweden. I thought they were honestly American. It's weird how some bands that they're totally not from America, and they sound it. But Melancholy.
Melancholy, yeah, sure.
Yeah, man, they were in, I believe, one of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtracks. That's where I first heard them.
Possibly all of them.
They had a pretty big.
It could have been
the
all of
90s. They were. I think they are having a revival now. And, well, of course, since the world was shut down for now, there's not much happening. But they were up and running again, I think. I used to work as a bouncer, and one of the wildest gigs I ever worked at was a Melancholy gig that got totally out of control with the barricades cracked open, and I didn't know it was up and down. In the end, we were just throwing punks left, right, so getting off the stage and stuff like that. That was a Melancholy gig. That was always fun band because they were a party band. That was fun. Yeah, sure. That was one of them.
I just checked. It's No Cigar. I love that song.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know. I know. We know.
Tony Hawk 2, just FYI.
Oh yes, Tony Hawk. That
There
series.
was lots of good bands in those games. I think lots of good music. Yeah, that was cool. I think they introduced a very young generation to a whole lot of cool music, and that's awesome.
That game, the first three, anyways, because I lost track after the first three. They had, from what I remember, bands like I think Rancid, the Power Man 5000, to rappers that I'm not even gonna pretend I know which rappers, but they had Red Hot Chili Peppers. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I heard them. I was like 6 when that game the first one came out.
Yeah.
Not to make you feel old, but it introduced me to a lot of cool bands, and Melancholy was one of them.
Awesome. I think that's awesome. Yeah, because I was watching, remember when it came, a friend of mine, his son was playing it. That was, what the hell is that Social Distortion on the soundtrack? And that was cool. I thought that was really cool. So, yeah, that's awesome.
Did so censorship with with movies. Now, I know for video games, there are different regions where not only do they basically dictate what games you can play, there's also locks on. I know, for example, I think it's the original Nintendo. They're physically designed differently for different regions. Like there's one for Asia. I don't know where the separation is. I don't know if it's like Asia, Europe, but was there one for Sweden?
I haven't experienced anything like that here. There's always been a big debate about violence in the video games, violence in movies, yada yada. But we never had that sort. We have a sort of a system like PG and rated for this and that, for violence and stuff like that. And I think a lot of it changed when we became members of the European Union. We adapted a lot of the laws that the rest of Europe had. But video games have traveled better than the movies did. The thing with the movies were that it was only violence. It wasn't nudity of sex, because that's like hey, we're from Sweden, you know. So that was never a problem with that. And but it was always violence, and it was really funny because I had a friend of mine who from the United States who came over. It was late 80s, I think, and we were watching Terminator on VCR, and he said that he was so surprised at that movie, that because when he had seen it on TV, the TV version, they had cut out Arnold Schwarzenegger saying "fuck you, asshole," and they have cut out Arnold Schwarzenegger naked from behind his butt, but everything else was intact. And he was amazed that, wow, Arnie's ass is in this version. He thought that was amazing. I think that's pretty much how it worked there, because you can show everything else, but as soon as the violence and the horror came in, they started to cut it out. But as it is now, all that we got with all the streaming services, with all the Netflix, HBO, Prime Video, and everything. It has become obsolete totally.
Oh, absolutely.
The censorship.
Yeah.
We always should have been. I can say it's not.
For sure. And I know that back in the 90s, that was a huge thing. That's why they created the, I forget the company, but that's why they created a rating system for video games because parents were in an uproar. Mortal
Yeah, yeah.
Kombat. Mortal Kombat was viewed
Well,
as a game that was bad for kids. Think about that. Think
Imagine.
about the games they play now. I know that, but think about the
Yeah.
games that we play now.
yeah, that's insane. No, it's funny. It's funny is how the same thing as when you think back in the 80s when they have all these where Judas Priest were held responsible for suicides and they had hearings with the bands and it's absurd when you look back on it that artists had to go up and testify and talk about the music because no, you play this backwards and says go ahead and kill yourself and blah blah blah. And I think what's his name? Singer of Judas Priest. Help me here.
Rob Halford.
Yeah, Rob Halford. I think he said the best thing was that if we could put a backwards message on our records back then, it would have been buy more of our records because why would we want our audience to go kill themselves? That's not okay. If we want to make money, so it was crazy times with was this PMRMC or what they call it, Tipper Gore and. They were on a holy crusade against heavy metal music and punk rock, and it was insane when I look back on it.
Before we go to another subject, I just am curious on one thing. I don't think it was answered. The movies that were brought in, were they all in English or were they
dubbed?
Yeah, thank you. Dubbed to Swedish.
We have never dubbed movies in this country unless it's for children's movies. We have always had subtitles. If you compare to France, Germany, and Italy and Spain, who almost always dub their movies, we have always had with the subtitles here, and I think that's a blessing because I can't handle. I don't want to watch Evil Dead in German.
No.
Well, maybe I won't, but I have to be very drunk and have it as a fun thing to watch because no, it was always an original language, so that was cool.
The last movie I saw, well, I think it was the last movie I saw before the pandemic in 2020 this year, sorry, was Parasite, and that's a Korean film, and that was it was in my local theaters for like 3 or 4 days. I told my wife, I'm like, she was we just had a new infant. I'm like, you know what, I have to see this movie. So I don't know what this is about me, but it was amazing, and if it was dubbed, it really would have taken a lot of the character tone and just everything out of it. It would have sucked its soul out, in my opinion. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but I don't like movies that are dubbed.
I like the subtitles, and if you have that the whole life, you're used to it. You watch it as you read it, and is it in English? I often listen more, but if it's Asian movies, I have to have subtitles. But that was funny because I started to watch Ju-On Origins today on Netflix. Their series. They got released here today, but I was a bit. I started watching it as I sit and work. I usually have a movie in the background, and I was thinking, shit, this is bad. Damn, this is so bad. Why is it so bad? And then for some reason they start with the English dubbed version, so you have to change it to the original language because the English version is the first choice. And when I switched that over, it became so much better because the dubbing was really crap on it, and it doesn't work. So of course, do it original, I think.
Yeah, I would jump on that as a third as well, Pat. You said it kind of sucks the soul out of the performance. I would definitely agree with that, because it's certainly not just the words that are coming out of the actors' mouths. It's the way they emote, and if you've ever watched a dubbed version, any version I've ever seen just seems like whoever did the voiceover is just there for the paycheck. They're reading it with no punctuation, no. It sounds like a second grader reading it.
They have to be as big actors as the one on the screen, I think, to pull it off because there is so much in it. It's like I remember Mad Max. The first one was banned in this country for many years. And when it was released on VHS, eventually, it was the US version, which was dubbed to American English. And that movie, I was thinking, the only one who's not dubbed in that movie is Mel Gibson. But all the other actors have put really bad dubbing on. And that movie, when I finally got it on its original with the Australian dialogue, it became so much better because it took so much off all this bullshitting.
Yeah. Now, one kind of thought that came to my mind when Patrick first asked you if it was in Swedish or dubbed or whatever, it's much more common in Europe for children to learn multiple languages. Is that the case in Sweden?
Yeah, we teach English in schools from third grade and up, and I see on my own kid and stuff like they learn so much English thanks to the internet and everything they watch. And I heard from teachers as well as the kids today, they have so much, they learn English so much better than just 20 years ago when you had no speak and write and everything very good. And but it's mostly English. The other European language, we learn German if we want to. We can learn Spanish, French in school. I don't know how is it now because it was so long ago since I was in school, and I wasn't that very interested. But I think there's a lot of the kids. They are really good at especially English nowadays, much because of the internet and.
Yeah, and I could tell you my experience too, but it's 20 years outdated. I know we don't, well, as of 20 years ago, our public schools would start kids in 6th or 7th grade learning a second language, and generally you would choose between Spanish or French. And, you know, nothing against French, but I feel like there are a lot of other languages that would be generally more useful. Maybe I'm thinking Portuguese or Mandarin and anything like that. Pat, what language did you? I'm sorry, Henrik, go ahead.
Excuse me, I'm having a little bit of the cuts a bit here. What did you say? Excuse me again.
Oh, I was going to ask Pat what his experience was learning foreign languages in the public schools here.
Yeah, so I took Spanish, 7th, 8th, and then 2 years in high school. Straight C student, and that was with a little extra help.
Yeah,
I'm adequate at English, and I'm terrible at foreign languages.
and
I understand.
Even expanding on what I said, I took it 7th, 8th. I took 3 years in high school because I was told that if I took 3 years, it would complete my college requirement. Turns out that wasn't true. So I also took 2 semesters in college, and I'm not sure I could, at least writing down, I'm not sure I could string together a complete sentence in Spanish. I might, I might be able to ask where the bathroom is if I was stranded somewhere, but it's a very specific situation.
I had a German. I learned German in 7th, 8th, 9th grade, and I know I can order a beer, and I can go tell people go to hell and something like that, and that's all. I don't need it. But
go to hell, get me a beer. What else would you need?
Yeah, I have to take it in a certain order if I want to have a beer, so I have to take it like that.
Did Brennan ask you why? Not why. How you came about your nickname? I'm wording this awful. Look, I told you I'm not good at English. Did Brennan ask you how you got your nickname? Honk.
The honk. Oh, that's such an old story. I'm having a problem remembering it myself. But I think this was some like in the 7th grade, something like that. So it was like some 30 plus years, it's more, 35 years ago. We were just fooling around with stupid nicknames, and I think I was first called Honken with an EN on the end because that's a legendary goalie in ice hockey here in Sweden. For some reason that stuck, and then it got shortened, and then it was just Honk.
Okay.
I like a car horn. I don't know. It's just stuck and it's gonna stick. It's gonna be on my friggin' gravestone when they put me in the ground. It's gonna be honk. So I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it.
Brennan?
No, we initially we had you down as Henrik Honk. And it was only in doing research for this episode, because we went off your Twitter, and it was only in doing research for this episode that we said, oh, and we didn't want to be rude and say that's kind of a strange surname. I don't know, maybe it's a Swedish thing.
You never know.
Hey.
You never know. Yeah. That's not.
So your company name is Monster Boy Creations. At least that's what you got on your. That's a cool name, man. It absolutely applies to what you do. Where'd that name come from?
From the beginning, it was Monster Boy Cakes, because this came out of doing designer cakes. I had a little company many years ago. I was doing wedding cakes, cakes for birthdays, and all sort of weird situations. I delivered cakes to friggin' mobsters and to gay skinhead clubs and all sorts of weird places. But it was real fun times. But I couldn't live on it, and I was in a pretty bad place myself, so I quit it and started up. Always wanted to do something creative, and started this like a sort of a therapy, relaxation, just for fun thing, and I fell in love with it pretty in the instant. That was about 4 years ago. Before that, I hadn't sculpted in clay at all. So I started up with the first one I did was a very sloppy alien, but it caught on, and then it caught on and on and on, and people started to enjoy what I did, and I had so much fun with it because I'm not doing commission work. I just have a very whimsical mind. I can sit with a piece of clay like this and for an hour, what am I going to do? What I'm going to do? Who does this look like? Oh, bloody hell, I can do that. And that's what I like about it. I never have a plan. I never have a method to the madness. I just go with the flow. And so it came from that. NBC, I call that Monster Boy Cakes. And then when I started to making the clay stuff, I can't have cakes in this. People were still thinking I was making cakes when I was doing other stuff. So I just changed the C to the cakes to creations instead. So that's pretty much it.
That's pretty. So you deliver. Unless you want to, I'll go on. But you've delivered cakes to mobsters. Is there any?
That was weird situations on lots of vodka, but there was so many shady situations. You don't believe that I'm gonna I did a wedding cake that was a Nintendo inspired cake that I delivered to. They had a wedding on a fucking boat. I have to carry this one on a boat, and it was crazy. And I did one wedding cake that was the bride has decided everything. It was one of those with a big a huge one.
Columns,
it was pink,
I think,
yeah, exactly. She had said everything should be pink and roses and blah blah blah. And I understood that the groom had nothing to say about this. So I started to think about it, and I started asking his friends, "Hey, can you tell me something about the groom?" And they said, "Yeah, he's a huge Iron Maiden fan." Awesome. So I made a Eddie head, tiny Eddie head in sugar paste, edible. So when everything was in place, I put that little Eddie head in there among the roses. Just before they were going to cut the cake, and I saw they stood there, and I saw the bride just stopped with a knife, and I saw the groom was wow, this big smile on his face, and I gotcha. So it was really fun times, and it was everything from the kiddie parties to I did some for some arts opening nights for art shows. That was crazy shit. They like, what do you want? We want something that is so disgusting and vile and blah blah blah. So I was, what do you think about rotten fetus conjoined twins? Yeah, that's cool. So I did one of those cakes. Yeah, and That got really disgusting, and some were really angry about it. And I thought, well, this is punk in my book. This is punk rock. Let's go for this. And I wasn't there when it was delivered because I wasn't visiting my sister in Texas. But I had made the cake, done, frozen it, and then they took it to the show in the next city here in Sweden. And I got some really gnarly pics from the opening night there when they had this little tiny girl with a big meat cleaver opening up this cake, and it was disgusting. But people ate it, and it made a name for myself.
Why is there not a movie after you? Why is there no biopic after you? I'm serious.
Oh, you gotta wait till I'm dead or something like that. It's better now. I still got some shit to do, so we can add that as well.
Do you have you said your sister is in or was living in Texas?
Yeah.
Is she still in the US, and do you have any other family?
Yeah, but she and her husband and the kids and family, they moved to Colorado.
Okay.
From Texas. They lived in Fort Knox. Fort Worth. I always had a problem with that one. That was a cool place. I traveled some in the US, and Texas was good, and I've been a lot on the West Coast. And
you ever go to the East Coast ever?
No, but I wanna go there.
That's that's where Brennan are from.
Yeah, so I definitely want to go that way as well. I have this dream since I'm a chef. I work as a chef. Of course, it would be so cool to do a coast to coast down south and everything, and just eat your way through the U.S. because you got so many different cultures all packed in one country, and I think that's so cool with the food. I love it to eat crazy food all over the world. So
it is, and then there's great spots in Boston called the North End. It's an Italian section. There's. I mean, if you were ever in the area, I'd suggest a very specific place, but it is very densely packed with all these. I can't speak for every restaurant, but there's like true Italian food there. It's just
right. Yeah, that is cool. I lived for a couple of years in Italy when I was a kid.
Okay.
My dad worked there, and my biggest memory of Italy is absolutely the food, and that pretty much I think made me want to be a chef. That I also became.
Oh wow!
So, yeah.
I hear that the wheat that they use for the pasta there is different. And it's better. It's more easily digestible. I don't know if you know anything about that, but is there anything else?
They use we call a durum wheat, durumvete. We call it here. It's a special, more high quality wheat. I don't know. It's hard. I made pasta myself sometimes, and homemade pasta is so much better than anything else. Even if you buy fresh pasta, if you do it yourself, it's so much better. And you can choose what flour you want to use with that one as well.
For sure.
Really easy.
My wife, she didn't feel so great after eating most pastas, and then we tried gluten-free, and she's like, I don't feel sick, and that was one step in the right direction.
All right, yeah. That can be pretty hard on you if you have a problem with gluten and stuff like that. Just leave it out, and it takes a while before you feel better because the body's got to get used to it. But that's cool.
Yeah, no, I'm by no means a chef. I cook a little bit. Like I can cook for my friends and family, but I'd be very curious to try food in Italy or other places outside the U.S. Have you seen what's in a lot of the U.S. Foods, the ingredients compared to like European foods or what have you?
What I noticed a lot in the U.S. you have to. Like my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, he is from New Mexico from the beginning. He knows where to go and what to eat. If I come to the U.S. without having a guide guiding me, I would absolutely end up at sloppy places that wasn't any fun, like franchises and stuff. Because there's a lot of franchises, I think, and I hate that when you go to a restaurant and then you go to the same restaurant 1,000 miles that way, and it looks exactly the same. The food tastes exactly the same. What the hell? There's got to be a variation here. There's got to be a difference.
Right.
So I want to find those little sheds out in the swamp. That's, hey, we got alligator burgers here. Yeah, give me that. I mean, I want to find those small little places where people, family-owned businesses that do their own thing and have done so for decades. Those are the best. I think we have high and low in Europe as well. We have lots of cheap, fast places where you can get food, but we have lots of good smaller restaurants in Sweden with people who are. It's like chef-owned places. It's not owned by a guy who want to make money, but it's owned by a couple of chefs who have brought this together because they really have a passion for food. And those places are really, really good because they have a pure love and passion for what they do.
Sure. I got one more question before Brennan takes over. I gotta know, you've eaten literally all over the world. What is the most? It's actually two questions. What's the strangest thing you've eaten, and if you can pinpoint one food that you're like, that if I can only eat this is it.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
the
it.
The strangest one is the one we have in Sweden called sculptor. It's like fermented herring. There are lots of fun videos on YouTube of people in Sweden who send those cans to the US to friends. It's like a fish, and it's so the cans are bulging because there's so much pressure in it. So when you open it, it's like like a champagne. But the smell of it, you wouldn't believe it. People are puking right up and down.
Wait, how do you spell that? What's it called?
Sillströmming. Fermented herring. It's fermented herring.
Okay, fermented herring.
If you put S-U-R.
Yep.
S-T-R.
Yep.
O. And that's an O with two dots upon what we call an straw. And after the O, you have M-M-I-N-G.
Okay.
Sillströmming.
Okay, thank you.
You gonna place an order for that?
Check it out on YouTube. It's hilarious.
I'm not gonna Google it. It sounds horrendous.
It's horrible.
I know about it already.
Yeah. It sounds like something that you would have created when you made cakes, honestly.
Yeah, I could have done it, but this is so we have tried it a couple of times when we get together with friends, and just because somebody have to be funny, all of a sudden there's a can of sillströmming on the table, and oh fuck, we have to go with this one again, and it is atrocious. It smells so bad, and when you open it up, it's like a green slimy goo, and you can fish up some slimy pieces of fish in it. And you eat it rolled up in like a soft bread with potatoes and cream, what is called crème fraîche, sour cream, and chives and stuff. But it is crazy. Check it out on YouTube. You're gonna have a hoot and a holler. They have it has been called the smelliest food in the world. You're not allowed to have it on airplanes because the air pressure can make the can explode, and if it does, you have to take that plane down fast because it's so fucking bad.
Weaponized stink bombs, gotcha. So
yeah, it's so it's like some sort of novel food. That's the weirdest, craziest. The only thing I could eat for the rest of my life. That's a tough one. It'd probably be called fläskesteg. It's a nice piece of pork with a fat on it that you rub with sea salt and cumin and put in the oven so the pork is all roasted and good. And then we have that with just some roasted potatoes and a good sauce. That's one of my favorites. So yeah, I go with that one.
It's a nice palate cleanser after the fish.
After the fish, yeah. The fish is just the entree.
And then you're ready for more.
I really like how Henrik pronounces words. Like, I feel like if me and Brennan tried it, we'd just sound like we're making fun of people and trying to throw up.
It would sound like Americans.
That's okay, yeah. We'd sound like douchebag Americans.
Happy July 4th, by the way.
I can live with that.
Yeah.
Because I'm just the douchebag Swede, so I can relate to everything. I feel at home, absolutely.
Brennan, back to you, sir.
So, Henrik, we have been, Patrick mentioned earlier, this is our 21st episode. We've been recording for just shy of 3 months now, which
Right.
pretty much coincides with the beginning of the lockdown here. So we've had, whether we mean to or not, we've had a lot of conversations about being stuck in quarantine. Tell us a little bit about the Swedish experience with that.
Sweden didn't give a fuck. They stayed open, and people are dying like crazy. We have a world record here of people dying, but we stayed open with huge restrictions, of course. I have been home now for a couple of weeks because I've had a cold or something like that. I went to test for COVID, and I haven't got the results back yet, but I'm not allowed to work as long as. But we didn't shut down, but we have some heavy restrictions. And everybody in Europe hates us now. Now when we're opening up, the people are saying everyone is welcome, but no Swedes. So,
oh my God!
I got to Copenhagen like 40 minutes with train away from here in Denmark, but I can't go there because they don't want to have any Swedes there. If you come from Norway, it's okay, but if it was, then again, there were countries that shut down completely over here as well, and people died like crazy there as well. So it's hard to say what was right or wrong. I've spoken to a lot of American friends, and I sense a lot of frustration and tension and stuff. And people, it has been crazy. But I think we've been pretty much business as usual over here. My workplace has stayed open. We have limited the amount of customers in the dining room. We have split tables so we don't have people too close, and lots of signs and information. So I think it has been pretty much business as usual. But of course you have the feeling in the air that it is very different still.
Yeah,
and weird way.
I would speak for that frustration and tension on this side of the pond. And, you had mentioned staying in Texas, and Texas is one of those places where they lifted restrictions very early, and now they're seeing a big surge again.
Yeah, I read that, yeah.
Patrick and I are more in the Northeast, and we're reopening, but we're doing it a lot slower. And as such, our numbers are definitely a little bit more in line. And it's worth noting that as we record this, it is July 3rd, because who the hell knows what it's going to look like when it airs, whenever it airs.
Oh, this will be on
also,
next Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah.
You also mentioned.
Still here. Yeah.
Valid. You also mentioned, I forget exactly. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but something along the lines of we don't know if we did it right or not. And I don't think anybody has that answer except maybe New Zealand. But I don't think anybody else has that. It's too early to really
absolutely
set that answer in stone.
I have a feeling that this is far from over, unfortunately, and it's I think we have a lot of people criticizing the government and the guys in charge over here, but when it comes down to it, it's about the individual and the responsibilities you do, the actions you do. You can't go and blame the government because you went to the beach and packed up with 2,000 people and coughed on each other because you had a choice there. And I think a lot of people need to act adult, perhaps, and be responsible. I think it'll be, this too will pass, as someone has said. So I think it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Are people willing to wear masks when they go out over there?
Not very much. Very much. No. We've had a lot of people dying, and most of those has been elderly and sick, as it has been all over the world, and that is really unfortunate, and that sucks. And I think I don't really know yet. It's hard to say what was wrong, what was right, where were we going with this. So we'll see in the end.
Yeah.
Well, that's depressing. Let's make a hard right turn.
Yes, please.
Henrik, you mentioned earlier an affinity for punk rock, and for those people who are just listening to audio of this, it's worth noting that Henrik's rocking a Black Flag shirt. Keith Morris inspired, of course, not anyone else.
No, we're not going to talk about that. Yeah.
Perfect. We're in agreement. And you have been in punk rock bands as a vocalist. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I want to hear about that.
I started singing in bands when I was like 16, 17 years old. I think one of the first bands we had was called Lab Rats. That was a really, really sloppy, bad punk band. We rehearsed a lot, but we never played any music. But we drank a whole lot of wine and was really drunk, so it was some sort of punk rock. Then we started a band called Mr. Construct and His Walking Abortions, and that one was a flop as well because that name didn't fly. And then it started. What?
It's not marketable.
No, not very much. And then
Walmart won't sell the
CD.
CD.
Went on and on. I sang with so many different bands, and the last one I sang with the Southern Hostiles was more like one promoter called it Chaos Country, or the Clash meets Cash. We had a pretty more approachable thing going on, but really fun. And we released a record, and we did a whole lot of touring in Sweden. And but then we didn't have time for it, unfortunately. All of us were getting kids and stuff like that, so we had to shut it down. And I felt also, as I turned 50 last year, I don't want to be that old guy on stage that you remember when you were young yourself and you know, what the hell is that? Go home, go and retire, you old fart. You don't belong here. Because I felt like that can be so pathetic, you know. And you have seen so many reunion shows with bands like, what the hell is a grandpa doing here? You know, stuff like that. And when your favorite punk bands go on tour to celebrate the 40th anniversary of a record, I feel there's something wrong here. I mean, goodness gracious, you guys are old. That's okay to be old, but don't try to pretend to be young. Give us new good bands instead. But it was a fun trip. We had lots of funny things. We through the years opened for great bands like Nashville Pussy, Turbonego, one of my absolute favorite bands, Norwegian Crazy Guys, Bob Log the Third, and lots of fun bands. And it was crazy times, and it was fun. But it was time consuming. I mean, you spent a whole day in a car. Then you did a show for 30 minutes, and then you spend another whole day in a car to go home again, and you were pretty wrecked, and you had to work the rest of the week. So, but it was fun times, absolutely, really fun times. But I'm done with it, and I'm pretty happy with it, and I'm happy with the trip we took. And we never got famous. We always were in debt. We never made any money. And stuff broke down, and it was chaos at times. But that was a fun thing. Absolutely.
Such is the life of a musician.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the way you described the sound, though, of the Southern Hostiles, because when I came across your influences, I mean, you had like Suicidal Tendencies next to Roy Orbison. You had Johnny Cash next to the Dead Kennedys. That's a pretty solid variety. What do you like to, besides the four I just named, what do you like to listen to?
I like to listen to a lot of the guys and girls who can sing. Then I don't give a damn about genre. I can start the day with listening to Patsy Cline, and then I go over and listen to Polystyrene of X-Ray Specs. By the way, it's her birthday today. And then go on with Wendy Williams if I want to. I mean, as long as the singer is doing his or her job good, and then I listen to it. There's so many great artists from way back in the 50s, 60s who had such an amazing singing voice. Other artists I like outside of the punk genre would be like Elvis, Roy Orbison, Screaming Jay Hawkins. I love that guy. He was so horror punk before it even existed. And a lot of different. Some country, more like the outlaw country with Hank the Third and his family and those crazy guys. So it's a very mixed bag. Even some old school hip hop, absolutely, and lots of Misfits. I listen to. Now we're talking about Misfits with Glenn on vocals, nothing else. Oh my God, yeah, and some. I'm not very much into heavy metal, but some of the old hard rock, like old Black Sabbath. God damn, that's so good, and it's so heavy still, and you can really listen to that music and understand how it could influence us so much as it did, and also the almost like Iggy Pop, MC5. Stuff like that. That raw sound, if the Sonics or Blue Chair, Roky Erickson, people who sang from the heart and did it well, honest music. Then as long as it is that, I don't really give a damn about genre. I want it to be for real. Then I dig it absolutely.
That is such a good answer, and I love how even though you're all the people you named, and if I had to put a number on it, I'd say you probably named like 25, 30 people, span decades and decades and decades. Mm-hmm. You specifically mentioned 50s and 60s. And what, especially with the focus on the vocals, what I love about that is there's no covering it up. Like what you hear is what that person was capable of. And I'm not even necessarily talking about auto-tune, but even just, the way that recording changes. Probably mostly in the 70s, but even a little before that. I've mentioned on the show before, my day job is I teach elementary music to kindergarten through 5th grade. Well, yes, but my favorite singer of all time is Billie Holiday, for the exact reasons that you pinned down. And I will tell you that the average 10-year-old does not give a shit about that. And I've tried.
but there's an honor in trying. I think. Yeah,
exactly.
You got to keep trying. Just beat it into them. Billie Holiday and nothing else.
He says he won't stop.
How socially important, her vocals. I can tell him how important, especially now, "Strange Fruit" is. And
oh my God, that song gives me goosebumps.
She was with that 1 octave range. They don't care.
No, that's too sad because
me to play Old Town Road.
As you said, that song is as important as ever today, and Billie Holiday, that's absolutely amazing voice.
I would put it out there. That "Strange Fruit" and "Don't Explain." I mean, those are two of the most gorgeous songs ever put to tape. So
that's true, absolutely. One other I have as like a patron saint home is Hank Williams. I think that guy, what was he, 29 when he died? The body of work he managed to squeeze out during that time, as well as being a raging alcoholic and pill popper, is crazy. That was like genius, and he beat the 27 Club with 2 years, but he there was so much crazy good songs he did back then, I think. So he's also been a huge influence on me.
I'm just going to throw my favorite singer because I think it applies here. It's not punk rock, but it's in the same realm of we don't give a fuck, we're going to kick ass. My favorite singer is Robert Plant, and my favorite band's Led Zeppelin, because those guys, you talk about changing music, the technical aspect of it. Jimmy Page is one of the founders of like, all right, we're going to change shit up. And they did a damn good job at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their stuff is legendary. Both the music and their antics, stuff they did, just as compared with the Who or the Queen or anything like that. Like, and that's another one. I don't like Queen, but I can listen to it because the Freddie Mercury's voice, goddamn, it was so amazing. And of course, it's catchy and you can dig it, but it's absolutely not my cup of tea. But I can, if I hear Freddie Mercury on the radio, let's listen to this because no one's ever going to sing like that again.
No way.
Because he was amazing. So
yeah,
so that's like you can I don't want to be like this. No, I'm only gonna listen to punk rock. I'm gonna listen blah blah blah. No, give me fun music to listen to. I'll listen mostly to punk rock and very poppy punk rock like the Dwarves, Teenage Bottle Rocket, and the Queers and stuff like that. And because it makes me happy and it's fun to listen to. And I don't listen very much to those crust punk, the ones yeah, okay, I can drink to that. So, but I want a lot of rock and roll in my punks. So Super Sucker, that I like that a lot.
Is it fair to say, because I don't know honestly, one of my other favorite bands from the '60s, also from the UK, is the Who. It's fair to say they're like punk rock, right?
I think they absolutely they just like the Sonics did over in the US. They were ahead of their time. It was the music was so fucking loud and raw, and they were rude and crazy up that. As if you compare the Beatles to the Rolling Stones. Rolling Stones were pretty rough back in the day as well.
Right.
And they should have quit sometime, I think, perhaps. But I love the early Rolling Stones. That's some raw rock and roll they got there in blues.
Yeah.
It's really good, actually. So
there's this one story I heard about when the Who and Led Zeppelin's drummers, the Who's drummer Keith Moon, Led Zeppelin's drummer John Bonham, when they hung out one night, both well known for being super big alcoholics, and
yeah. That's a drummer, yeah.
I guess I fit the bill because I'm a drummer. But so I guess long story short, they did some damage to a hotel room, got rowdy, just got sloshed together. I would have liked to be a fly in that room just to see what they did.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have. Oh, they should make a movie about that night only, because that would be.
Damn, I want to see that now.
Yeah, but maybe not. I tried to watch that movie they made out of dirt, the Mötley Crüe, but I shut it off after a while because I think the book is entertaining, and I can say that Mötley Crüe is absolutely not my cup of tea at all. I don't like the guys. I don't like the music. I don't like the band. That's my opinion. But the book is very entertaining as catching that era. And there's so many funny people popping up in it as well. But I didn't get that the movie version they did of it. It's a hard book to do a movie of, I think.
You know what? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I just read recently they're gonna do a Lemmy movie. And I want to know who they're gonna put in the lead for that one. The funny thing is that the same guy who did the documentary, which is really good, I think Lemmy, he's going to direct it, I understand. And a lot of the people involved with Motorhead are going to be in the production and stuff like that. So maybe it can turn out well. But I know that Lemmy said in an interview himself when they asked him who they wanted him to play him in a movie. I think his reply was, forget it. But it was like something stupid, like some hot supermodel at the time, and I don't think that will be manageable. But it can be interesting if it's done well. So yeah, I think the Queen movie was pretty cute. I think it was entertaining, and I understand they sugarcoated a whole lot of the whole story, of course, but it was like a little cute tribute to the whole thing, and I thought it had some good scenes in it as well.
I didn't watch it. I really I enjoy the biopics if I know that the actor or actress loses themselves in the role like so much that they learn to mimic the musicians' tones and musicianship. Like I thought Joaquin Phoenix in Walk the Line, I thought he was fabulous. I love that movie.
And I think Val Kilmer in The Doors, I think he's a really good singer, and I think he sang himself for that one as well. That is cool if they totally go in for it. Just like what's he called? Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. That guy.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. He
Man
when he
on the
was
Moon,
doing
right?
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you seen that documentary they did on that when he
I
was
have not,
playing
no.
Man in the Moon? Oh my God, that is crazy! You got to watch it. They did a documentary while making Man in the Moon, and I don't know which company it was. They said no way, put this in a vault. No one's ever going to see this. And then now, while many years later, they did actually release it, and that is crazy because he gets possessed by Andy Kaufman. Milos Forman can't talk to him if he says, "Hey Jim," he won't listen. So I say, "Okay, Andy, yes," and he's totally into that, and it is almost creepy because, but it's very interesting to see how he very totally like a maniac. He embraces this and he goes all the way into it. It's like he starts to fight all the enemies of Andy Kaufman. What the hell, Jim Carrey? No, he's spitting on people and stuff like that. And I think that is really fascinating. People who can totally do that method thing and go all the way in, and that is cool. That's cool.
And he did the same exact thing on The Grinch too, which is very different. But when he was in the makeup, he refused to break character, and I guess they had to call him Grinch. I won't go deep on that one. I know
Did
that
you?
I want to see a documentary on that as well.
Right?
Did you guys see the third Blade movie?
Yeah, that was.
I'm not
very.
I'm not bragging about it. I like the first two.
I think I saw them. We were doing like a marathon, and we watched all three, and then we came to the third one, and we were like, after that one, I said, "Nah, we shouldn't have watched this one because that one sucked." But the first two are really good, I think.
I bring it up because Patton Oswalt talks in an interview how Wesley Snipes would only reply to Blade, and he was being very like in character in a weird way on set.
That's not necessarily the same as method acting, though. That's just Wesley Snipes being a little odd.
That's good. Wesley Snipes being Wesley Snipes, perhaps. Yeah.
What about Jack Nicholson? Would be another method actor, I would think, to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm thinking of Robert De Niro, what he did in like Raging Bull and Cape Fear, and how he, as the Christian Bale did. What's it called? The Machinist, or what, the one who just starved himself. That was crazy the way. And after that, he did Batman. I mean, goddamn, your body's gonna be so worn out of that.
Well,
it's very
and then
fascinating.
He lost all the weight again to do The Fighter. And actually, you know what's funny is he's somebody who came to mind for who could play Lemmy.
He could go all in.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't think of a better person. That doesn't mean he's the best, but he's definitely somebody who could commit to that role.
That is interesting. Yeah, I can absolutely.
We're sort of on it.
Let the makeup department do the rest, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I would throw Jamie Foxx doing Ray Charles into that conversation of people who were really able to own that role and become that musician.
That is cool. Absolutely.
I heard Jamie Foxx was supposed to play Spawn in the Spawn remake, but now he's not. I'm curious. I'm curious if either one of you have heard anything about that, because I want to see him play Spawn.
But they are actually making a new Spawn movie. They are.
Last I read about it was that he dropped out. I don't know if that's accurate. I'm just curious if you guys are. It's hard. I feel like it's horror related.
Yeah. It can, we have to wait and see what's going to happen there. Absolutely.
Now, I just wanted to mention, going back to before we go off this again, two Swedish bands that I'm a big fan of, and one that I've been a fan of since I was a kid, In Flames, heavy metal, and then Hammerfall. I'm curious if you like either one of them.
Not so much. I have the deepest respect for them because I know that Swedish musicians, especially in the heavy metal and that scene, are really, really good, and they do. I understand that the death metal, Swedish death metal, has a pretty well looked upon over the world with lots of good bands, but not really my cup of tea. But I have lots of friends who listen to it, so I have to I have to go with them at times to watch it and enjoy it. I don't die if I listen to it, but it's nothing I put on the first thing in the morning either. So there you
go. You know what? Now let's go back to, I guess the main chunk of this conversation would be you as a sculptor. So you're in Sweden. Were you born and raised in Sweden?
Yes. I was born in this city in summer of '69.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I could say that I got my first real six string, but I'm going to shut up about that because Bryan Adams isn't really my biggest cup of tea. I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired. It's late.
Nah, man. Yeah. He's not. I don't think he's really anyone. So even Canada.
He's a Canadian. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
They disown him. I see a lot of Alien, Jaws, and Hellraiser inspired sculptures.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that those are kind of like three of your favorite series or films?
Absolutely. Jaws and Alien, totally. Those two, I always return to those because there's so much left to do with them and so much you can do so much free stuff on them and explore. And I had a little bit of a period when I did a lot of Hellraiser stuff, and then I got so tired of doing Pinhead because like putting 75 nails in the head of a skull, it's a little bit boring. But they usually come up pretty well. But mostly it is the emphasis is on 80s practical effects era with like I said, The Thing. And all the different boogeymen we have there with Jason, Pinhead, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, of course. I've done a lot. So it's a lot of the 80s horror stuff, I think I focus on. The stuff that I grew up in and I loved. So it's pretty much that one.
Yeah, two of my two that I really like that you did. I was checking out your Etsy shop. Is the I can't talk. The Crypt Keeper and Frank the Bunny.
Yeah.
Yeah. They from Donnie Darko. They are pretty goddamn good, man. Like
Thank you very much.
It's like top-notch stuff. I love watching your videos. It's really interesting just kind of watching the process because I don't have any friends that do that. I don't do it, so it's way different.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fun because it gets great feedback and it's fun. And the best feedback you can ever get is that people say, wow, you inspire me. I think that is the best. That is such an honor to hear that.
Sure.
This little thing I do here by the kitchen table over here in Sweden, that someone on the other side of the planet saying that shit you're doing there, that inspires me to go out and get some clay and start working. And that is so big to hear, and that is so great to hear. So I try to keep them up, the videos. It's as often as I can because it's fun also for me to watch. I see so much. You sit and look at a thing like I'm working on being really frustrated with Hannibal Lecter I'm working on, and
that is cool.
You look at it and it's that looks good, and then I take a picture of it and I look at the picture, but what the fuck is this I've been doing? You look at it in so different ways. So filming and taking pictures is something I do during the process, much for myself as well, because you look at an object a different way on a screen than they look at it in real life. So I try to make stuff.
My favorite one that I see in your shop is a Moby Dick shot glass tray where there's I don't know what you use for harpoons, but it's super it's ugly in the sense where because that's what humans did. It's an ugly act to harp.
It is,
You're throwing spears in a huge gentle creature.
It's crazy, yeah. Yeah, I like that one. I love Moby Dick and the old movie. And I really dig that, and the effects in that one is really still very amazing. And it is a crazy thing to do. To go out on a little boat and throw spears at a huge creature.
Pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it is. Sure is.
Did you see the movie In the Heart of the Sea? It's a story about. You saw that?
About how we came to write the book, or was it that? That was about Melville and. Yeah. I saw it.
Yeah,
Can't hardly remember it now. I liked it. Yeah, I
it's
did.
about a young Melville where
Yeah,
he goes to the captain that experienced the actual story, and he pays him
yeah,
so he can hear the story and eventually write it.
yeah.
I don't know if that actually happened. I should have looked,
But
I
it's a good
guess.
story, so why
Yeah.
not? I liked it. I have to rewatch that. I can't really remember it now, but I have a sort of a fascination to Moby Dick that I think is pretty much connected to Jaws because there are some big similarities in those movies.
And
With
yeah, Spider-Man's in that movie, Tom Holland, and
So is Thor.
yeah,
so,
oh yeah,
all right.
yeah, he's one of the main characters. Fun fact: those
Fun
two take
fact.
the movies. Jaws, the
Yeah.
book, takes place in Jersey, down in the area where I live now. But where I'm from originally, my father's parents retired in the Cape Cod and Martha's Vineyard, where Jaws, the film, takes place.
Yeah.
Is there? So that and In the Heart of the Sea, which takes place in I think New Bedford, Massachusetts. They're both in Massachusetts. Um,
Nice. Yeah.
Horror is there's a lot of
Mm.
popular horror films and books based in Mass, and it's worth going there, man, one day if
Yeah.
you're into
Nah,
that.
I have to.
Not to mention a lot of
Once you,
Lovecraft stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
Providence,
Have you heard of
Providence,
that?
Rhode Island, yeah.
Yep.
I saw there were some Lovecraft-based TV shows coming to HBO. Have you heard about that one? It was called.
Is there?
Yeah, it looked
Yes.
really good. The trailer for it. I
I
don't
believe
remember
it's
what it's
called
called.
Lovecraft Country, maybe.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
it's
something like
based on a
that.
book, and I can't remember the author's name.
Mhm.
Um, but oh gosh, I can't remember anything about it. I don't want to speak out of turn on that, but
No.
it
But
definitely looked interesting.
absolutely, I recommend to find a trailer and take a look at that because I thought it looked really interesting.
It says it's by Matt Ruff. I don't know who that is.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're kind of coming close to the end of this episode, so I wanted to ask, what is your favorite sculpture that you've made, if that's possible to answer?
That's a tough one. I did one something that is really hard to catch is a real actor, so to say, without the makeup. And like I'm struggling with Sir Anthony Hopkins here, but I did one Nosferatu, the Klaus Kinski version that came out so freaking. I was so happy with how that one came out, and so that was, I surprised myself with that one, but also some big alien stuff I done, and the thing, the Norris head from the thing, I'm really happy with those, and pretty much all of it, because if I'm not happy with it, it goes into the closet. I won't sell it because I don't want to sell anything that I'm not happy with myself. I wouldn't do that because I have to be satisfied and feel that I'm selling something that I'm proud of and I feel like I did my best on. But that Klaus Kinski guy, I felt like, damn, I peaked. Now I'm screwed. But no, I'm not. I'm going to make many more monsters, and I am making many more monsters just as we speak.
Sure. You know what, Brendan, if you got any final things to say, man, go for it.
Yeah, actually. So you sell your sculptures through your Etsy shop, which we will Patrick, I believe it's possible to put a link to that in the show notes once this
Sure.
goes live.
Yeah, yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
And you said that's next Thursday.
Next Thursday.
I don't know what day of the week it is. It's Friday. Cool, 6 days.
That will be
Do
July 9th, 2020.
you
The
also
thing
take
with
commissions?
I never take commissions, but I have this sort of first dip system I have on Instagram and Twitter. And when I I started up a new stuff, and people ask, "Wow, I want that one." Okay, I put you top on the list. No strings attached, no money in advance because I believe that's bad luck. Um, and when I'm done with it, I present it to the person who has called for it, and I say this will cost this and this, and if you like it, if you don't like it, no hard feelings. I pass it on to the next guy, and if I don't have a buyer on Twitter or Instagram, it will eventually end up in the Etsy shop. So that's the order of things. Usually, I'm in a really lucky spot because I do exactly what I want to do, and people want it anyway. So that's so cool. That's such a so humbling and sweet situation to be in, and I really love that and appreciate that. And people understand that I don't do commissions, and people buy my stuff anyway, and are so far pretty pleased with it. So it's cool. It's really cool.
I gotta imagine that there's not a long wait. Like I've seen your stuff, man. I've been following you on Twitter. It feels like it's been a year. I don't know exactly, but everything you make is top notch.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know they go popular. Some of your videos get pretty high hits. I've noticed that they become.
I noticed that as well. I've been a bit surprised, and I had a really good going on Instagram up to a couple of months ago when my old account was hijacked, and I had to report it for identity theft, and they shut it down, and I lost about 4,000 followers and 7,000 pictures from projects and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna bitch about that. I started a new account and I'm working on that one, and I can get it is. I'm honored because it's so cool to have those lots of people viewing and commenting, and very often very sweet feedback, and people are very kind. I like that a lot.
Sure. Henrik, I think that I wish I had more questions, man, but everything you said feels like it's been dense in the sense where I didn't realize we'd talk about all this cool shit. I need to see a movie based off of you or read a book about you. And can I be that? Can I write that?
Focused on the cake stuff, of course.
Yeah, focus on the cake stuff. I'm gonna. I don't know. I did one of the posts that got most hits and what do you say retweets was the one with a rotten chicken cake I did. I don't know if you. I'm gonna do a rerun of that one in the coming days. You're gonna see that one because that got so many hits. It was crazy, and I was called all sorts of nasty things, and I just said yes, that's all true.
Isn't that funny though? Like you're just making a cake, and that's a really thin skin that some people have apparently.
Yeah, but that's a cool thing because I think Jello Biafra said it the best one time. Rather have a person in the audience throw a chair at me than no reaction at all, because there's nothing more dull than no feedback at all. I'm blessed with very sweet feedback and very nice followers who are very kind and very supportive. So I can't complain. It's so fucking cool to put it that way. So that's it.
Speaking of followers,
I can tell you one thing. Though before we're gonna shut down this.
Sure.
I often get requests for. I say I never do commissions, but people can request me because I can get inspired and they throw out a monster I have never made, and I go, well, wait a minute, I can try that one out perhaps, and then I return it to you first if I ever do it. So not a commission per se, but I can get inspired by people's. But there's one monster I will never make, and that hurts me a little bit because it's a really cool monster. It's a really cool design, and that is Jeepers Creepers. Yeah.
All right. Let's pick up. Let's pick up there.
Lots of people have asked about doing that one, and it's a really cool monster, and the design is really cool. But just because of the guy Victor Salva who did the movies and what he did, out of respect of his victims, I will never do it. Because I would feel like I would profit from a guy who actually is a convicted pedophile, and that's where I draw the line. But rotten chickens and stuff like that. But it's a shame because all respect to the makeup effects team and everything, because it's a really cool monster. But sorry, I'd rather do 10 Jason with a machete in his face instead. That's cool.
I mean, that's admirable. That's pretty awesome because fuck that guy forever, right up the ass.
I don't know. They're talking about the fourth one now, and I don't understand what the hell they're
why?
doing. Why? I had to read up some about that guy, and I was a little bit depressed hearing that a lot of people in the industry helped him with a parole and stuff like that. Like people like what's his name? I'm so bad at names right now, but there's some pretty big movie directors who stood up for him, and that's fucked. I don't that sort of crime. I don't believe that you can ever pay off, because you will always have a victim that will suffer forever. So I'm sorry, you can say, "Oh, I did 5 years for that," and now no, not in my book, my friend. I would chase it to the end of the world if I was involved with that.
Agree, and in my book, that can't be attributed to a lapse in judgment.
No,
to a bad
absolutely.
night or something like that.
No, absolutely. This was a pretty not just one isolated incident either, but I understand of it, and I think that's But
to
just
echo
a little
Patrick,
bit. Excuse me.
echo Patrick, I think your stance on crafting that, on sculpting that, I think that's admirable, and I agree with it. Yeah, I think you're right on there.
It's for me, that's the worst thing any human could do. I don't give a shit if you're in jail or prison or whatever for 90 years. I have a very I hope all those people get tortured. I don't fucking like them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That those sort of things, what you mess up a person's life forever. So I don't think that there can be any punishment that can fit that crime at all.
No.
Yeah, well, I can think of some stuff, but that's then I would really end up in jail myself, I guess.
To turn this into because we're ending, so I probably don't want to end on that note. On a positive note, I'd like to say, based off of that conversation, children are pure innocence, and it's something that I don't know how to make this better. God damn it, Frank, go. Take over, buddy.
Children are pure innocence. The children are our future. And where can people follow you?
Good segue.
Fucking brilliant.
Yeah. Where can people follow me? Yeah. I will not give out my home address yet. None of that.
Oh, definitely.
But
just tell us after we're done recording.
Yeah, of course. I am on Twitter. I am on Instagram. That's pretty much it. I had a Facebook page. Oh, excuse me.
What is your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is, I gotta check that out because I'm it's at RexHonk. REXHONK. You got this. If you're gonna be a honk, you gotta be King Honk. Yeah. So that's the Twitter handle, and the Instagram is Henrik Honk, in one word.
That's just, that name makes me. I'm not making fun of you, but Honk. That's such a funny name. I'm so happy that's not your last name.
No, I mean, I can tell you a quick story. When I was young and in London, and I was really very drunk, and there was a person who asked me, "What's your name?" And I said, "Honk." He said, "Honk?" And I stood up to her and screamed in her face, "Yeah, honk, honk, like move over, motherfucker." And that was a bad night, but my friend was with me. Did you get in a fight
after that?
No, they were just looking at me like, "Yeah, we're moving over like 3 blocks over there, and you can be here." So, but it was just a little story about that name.
And there's the positive ending we were looking for. I mean,
yes.
we tend to be boring in labeling our episodes. We tell people who they're going to be hearing, but if we came up with creative names, it would definitely be a draw between honk honk motherfucker and if you're gonna be a honk, you gotta be the king honk.
I appreciate it very much. It has been so much fun talking to you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic 4th of July tomorrow, and a safe one, and not too many people coughing on you and stuff like that. And thank you so very much for having me. It's been fantastic fun.
Here, man.
Our pleasure.
You've been a blast, dude. Everything. It just seems like it's a fucking movie. Your life is insane.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I'll echo that.
Yeah, Henrik, it's been a pleasure. Everybody follow him. Go on the show notes to see his Etsy store. Check out his cool shit. Motherfucker, honk honk. Later.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, guys.